I've got a treat for you today. I sat down with the talented Mary Spender to ask her about her experience being an independent artist, YouTuber, and even a documentary filmmaker. I didn't even know about that one. I first came across Mary here on YouTube years ago, and this past January, I had the chance to hear her perform live at the NAMM show. You can see me in the audience right here. In this episode, Mary shares the hard truth about getting people to listen to your music, the importance of building two audiences rather than just one, and a killer strategy for getting the most mileage out of your songs. Mary, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to introduce you. I'm sure most of my audience knows who you are, but for those who don't, can you give a quick intro of who you are and your origin story?
Yes, I am Mary Spender. I'm a British musician and YouTuber. And yeah, I started out, performing aged 15, having, learnt the guitar from age 12. I'd been sort of involved in classical music before that, but really found my love of songwriting. Just kept doing it, pursuing it all throughout university, my early 20s. And then around 26, 27, I started a YouTube channel where I was just talking from the point of view of being a songwriter, trying to do my thing. And since then, 7 years later, I've just been making a lot of YouTube videos, educational, music history, music business, just being honest and vulnerable sometimes. Singing songs that either I've written or someone else has written, and just trying to be a 21st century musician and trying to build a bit of a blueprint for other musicians trying to do their thing nowadays, and just teaching lessons along the way, all the mistakes I've made, all the horror stories as well, in amongst a lot of joy. So yeah, that's what I'm doing, and hopefully continuing to do for a little bit more time until AI ruins everything.
Until AI ruins everything. It's just a matter of time. It's really cool. First, congrats on all your success thus far, and your consistency. It's hard to do consistent content, and that's a big deal on top of music and all the other things that you do. So tell me a little bit about how do you like to record your music? Do you prefer to do it all by yourself, home studio style? Do you prefer to go to a studio? Like, what's your recording process look like?
Over the last 20 years of recording music, I've kind of attempted it all. I've attempted doing it myself. I've worked with producers. So I've gone through the journey of seeing how I work best. And one of the ways that I found most freedom of how I work, and get the best performance out of myself was actually in 2021. So it was quite late on. I wouldn't say I'm a producer. I wouldn't say I'm a mixing artist. So recording myself, I definitely do it for videos. I definitely do it for demos. But to release that music, I'm not sure it would necessarily be up to standard. I have done it where I've just sort of put myself under pressure to record and mix myself for a series of videos that I've only made 5 videos of in this particular nature, where it's like me being all the musicians and then them having personalities. We call it the trio series. So that is me mixing. But for my original material, because that's mostly covers, I did a project called Songbook, because I just had so much material after 10 years of really being a bit of a more serious songwriter. That I just went into the studio August 2021, May to August 2021, and we could only have so many people in the studio around that time in England. So I just did an acoustic album and recorded 26 songs, all to click track, all in one go, vocals and guitar at the same time. Because what I do love to do is be brutally honest about whether or not I sing in tune or play perfectly. I'm just like, there's a time and place for touching up, but maybe an acoustic album isn't it. Released those 2 volumes because it was, 18 songs, so I divided it 2 albums of 9. And then out of those, songs, I sort of handpicked my favorites and the fan favorites for an album
Mm-hmm.
that then I did go into the studio with a producer called Pau Romero in Barcelona. And yeah, over the course of it was 18 months, but it wasn't 18 months of album making. It was in amongst travel,
Mm-hmm.
working, us living in different places, and then produced Super Sexy Heartbreak. So that was really a, mega team effort.
Mm-hmm.
So Songbook was a bit closer to me producing myself because although I had an engineer, and we recorded in Brighton Electric, I was just there like trying to get the until I got the performance where my, hairs were standing up on my
Mm-hmm.
arm and
Mm-hmm.
everyone else in the room was like, yeah, that was the one.
Mm-hmm.
Or the song
Mm-hmm.
didn't make sense through the takes. And then I just made one change and I was like, that's the one. That's kind of how we got Songbook.
Mm-hmm.
But then, yeah, Super Sexy Heartbreak was real time
Yeah.
consuming takes and touch ups and
Mm-hmm.
1,000 layers of backing vocals and just sitting in a booth, just doing the same thing 100 times. So to get, two types of album out of the same songs, I was like, oh, that's really fun. So I think I'm going to pursue that again this year. My plan is to work on volumes 3 and 4 of Songbook because I've got another, 30 songs. Not all of them are good. Not all of them are good.
Mm-hmm.
Willing to find out the hard way
Yeah.
of which ones actually make sense. And then out of those ones, hopefully start working on the next studio album where again, I would love to have a team.
Mm-hmm.
But also, one of the big things to talk about with making an album is financing it,
Sure.
especially as an independent artist. And yeah, recording yourself at home is a lot more affordable.
Right.
But without Songbook and without 1,000 true fans, I limited it to 1,000 copies. Physical CDs, I know, in this day
Mm-hmm.
and age.
Mm-hmm.
If my audience hadn't bought those, I wouldn't have been able to afford the studio album. So I was, yeah, I was able to do the big production because of the acoustic
Yeah.
album and because of those 1,000 people.
Was that the plan to begin with, to start acoustic and with the intention of doing a full album later, or did you just start and then it came to you?
No, that was the only way I could
Wow.
fathom getting
Mm-hmm.
to the studio album.
Yeah.
Because again, I was 32 when we started working on that, 33 when I released it. Well, I think it came out fully July 2024. So it was sort of like a year album cycle, really, where I I released the full physical product from day one of my birthday 2023. No, September 2023, but only delivered one song a month on streaming platforms. But yeah, I was thinking ahead of like, I don't know how to get to that pinnacle of record making, which is every artist's dream to do their debut album without having this sort of like cushion in a way of the safety net of like, can I actually just perform these songs solo? Do they make sense enough to then, you know, hit the I don't know, the if it's only 11 songs in your debut and you've written 100, like you really want to make them worth it and make sure that people actually like them.
Yeah.
So
I love that
yeah,
because I feel like with whoever your favorite bands are, you typically get the acoustic version later after you're used to the original. But I love that, almost bringing them on the journey. It got me excited to think, yeah, why not do an acoustic version and then see which ones bubble to the top that want to be like they're asking to be more fully produced. That's super fun. You mentioned doing takes over and over until like the hair stand up on your arm. I've got this dumb thing that I do on my
oh my
live
god,
streams where
yeah.
whenever their song gives me goosebumps, I don't stop and say, "Look, I've got goose." But anyway, it's become this dumb thing where I hold up a goosebump alert sign because when music moves you like physically, that's a big deal. You got to like take note of that.
I mean, I
But
think that's the only purpose it serves is to move you. Don't you
That's
think? Like, what's
so
the point of
true.
a song that doesn't move you?
So
Like,
true. Yeah, exactly. So what are some things that you're working towards now? You mentioned another round of songbook. What kind of dreams, goals do you have? Because you've got killer following on YouTube. You're making great music. I just saw you dropped another single and music video, what, like in the last few weeks, I think. So you're obviously just plugging along. What's next for Mary Spender?
um, well, actually, talking about that music video because that's still related to the debut album, which to do all of it as an independent artist, like release a music video once a month alongside the single, it's quite a lot in amongst the other YouTube content that I try and put out. So I actually made sure that I was in a safe enough space to be able to deliver an official music video on the first of each month. And I just set me, and I now have a videographer working with me, and I just set us the challenge. I was like, right, we are going to create music videos on the first of each month for the next 11 months. And it started January 1st, 2025. Even though the album has been there a while, there are new eyeballs every day. And a lot of my audience, I feel like some musicians would hate this, right? But I love it. I love that some of my audience doesn't like my original music because it means I get two audiences. So I'm a really lucky musician that I get the people who love my original music. I get them. But if I were only a musician of that kind of way, I'd only have them. But I get these other people where I get a really long time to change their
Uh huh.
minds.
Yeah.
And they might hate some of the songs I do. They might hate my voice and they might just be like, just keep teaching me about this or that or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I will. I will keep investing in you. But you have to give me the freedom that every so often I'm going to deliver you something that is from me. And the amount of comments that we're getting now on these music videos are like, oh my God, your songwriting has improved so much. And I'm like, it's been there a while. And I also wrote that song 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe you hadn't given me the opportunity. So let's keep developing this relationship and let's keep offering you some stuff that some of it you're going to like, some of it you're not. So yeah, that's what the music videos are. So that's one of the goals of this year. The second goal is to really be back on YouTube, which I never left,
Right.
but I have evolved and changed up content, and I've taken every opportunity that I dreamt of getting in 2017 when I started the YouTube channel, because I didn't know that YouTube was the answer at the time. I thought you build a YouTube channel and therefore it leads to you becoming a touring musician, working with incredible brands, all the other things that you hope for. And a lot of them have happened. And I am so grateful for those opportunities, the opportunity to make an album, let alone tour, work with incredible people, collaborate. But what I've realized this year is I just really love making YouTube videos. So being a little bit more consistent on that, in amongst making long form content, like really, really long form. And I can say it now because we actually delivered one on Sunday, our first documentary, to a streaming platform called Nebula that I
Okay.
co-own with the creators. And they've given me the amazing opportunity of 6 months of exclusivity of a documentary on Nebula that will then make a YouTube version of. So in 6 months' time, every month I should be releasing a documentary on YouTube if
No
everything goes to
way.
plan. Oh my God, it's so much easier to say that than to actually do it, as we've already delivering this first one. But again, that was my other thing where I'm like, right, I've got this monthly cycle on my mind of just, really entertaining topics that I'm fascinated in, but going on a deep dive. So this first one is about Dire Straits, the story of Dire Straits, and in 2023 I got to interview John Ilsley, who's the bassist and only other founding member who lasted all 12 years of the career with Mark Knopfler. and we got to interview him and yeah, hear about that crazy, crazy journey that they went
Wow.
on. And yeah, we've made this 90-minute
Wow.
documentary on them. So we've now got to think about the next one. Uh, it's already in the works, but yeah, I'm kind of on this real video year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do songbook as well, which will be my music,
Mm-hmm.
but music and video is all I do and all I want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my goal. So I've covered the original music, I've covered the YouTube game plan. I'm thinking that's it.
That's, I
I'm
mean,
thinking that's
that's a
it for now.
lot. It makes me think of, I'm a big Foo Fighters fan, and like how much Dave Grohl does outside of just being Foo Fighters, right? The Sound City documentary was the first one, and then so many of those like other projects that don't seem to make sense, but they draw you into that world even more, which sounds like exactly what you're doing with the documentaries, which is super interesting. Um, what role do you think? I mean, you've kind of already answered it, but like I get this question a lot. People will say, "I want to make music. I want it to sound good," and so that's kind of I help them do that part. And then they say, "I should be able to put it up and people just listen." And that's all I want to do is just release music and have people listen. And even like your facial expression, like it's okay to want that, I guess, but like reality, looking at like your success, you make music and that's like one piece of this creative pie. And I would imagine, I don't want to like put words in your mouth, but I would imagine all the effort into the YouTube has very much contributed to the success on the music side and vice versa. Does that feel accurate? Is that your experience?
That is my experience for
Mm-hmm.
sure. It's funny. I was just having this conversation with my bassist, and we were talking about this dilemma of the modern musician. And I feel really fortunate. I've been doing these one-to-one calls with my audience for the last few months, and that is the dilemma that I think it's just the musician's ego.
Mm-hmm.
It's your sense of self. You're working so hard. You've worked for years learning an instrument, learning how to craft songs, and then investing in producing that music. You've worked so, so hard. And I know that graft. I know that grit that it takes just to finish a song, finish
Mm-hmm.
one song. However, why should anyone listen to you? And that has to be the question you ask yourself. Like, are you really that amazing? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I ask myself this question all the time because I know I'm not that amazing. There are moments where you hear a song and you are just, you stop in your tracks and you're just like, oh my God, I just have to keep listening to that. And if you just want to only be a musician, you have to be making that kind of music. It has to be
Mm-hmm.
showstopper.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you're not there yet, because some of those albums that have become the greatest of all time, they might be the debut. They might be a fluke from that band might have just been geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's the sixth album.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how do you give yourself that grace to get that good, to make people stop and actually listen to you? And in this day and age, why again should someone listen to you when they can just listen to the greats?
Mm-hmm.
They can find anything they want to listen to on any of the streaming platforms at, you know, just a click of a button. Why are you making them stop and listen to you? What is it about it? And if there's any doubt in your mind that you're like, yeah, no, I don't deserve that person's attention yet, then you just have to go back and you have to be like, okay, well, how do I get that person's attention? And for me, the lane I took was personality driven.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, you know what? If I actually take people on the journey with me and I don't have that kind of ego where it's like, well, you should just listen to my music because I'm amazing. Like, if I just remove that and what do I give the audience? maybe, as I've said, maybe they never like the original music, but at least maybe I've taught them something.
Hmm.
Maybe I've shared a story in a different way. It's not necessarily a song, but it can be a video. So that's kind of where I'm at with my answer.
Hmm.
But when someone is that good and they're putting in the work, they will rise to the top, but the top is so difficult to get to now.
Hmm.
What is even the top?
Hmm.
Is it just surviving now as a musician, actually being able to make a living from having streams of income?
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a very complicated topic, and I always try and broach it with a lot of sensitivity, but also I kind of want to say to people like, are you really that good?
Hmm.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Because I doubt myself all the time. You know,
Right. Same. I feel like my kind of go to is, has there ever been a time in history where you could just sit and create and that be it? Like, no, Mozart had to go like land gigs with churches to, you need to make music for our next 52 Sundays of services, like, right, like it
that's
was
what
a
I say about
job.
Bach.
Yeah.
I say Bach was the original YouTuber because
Yeah.
he just had a deadline every week and he had to create.
He
And
was.
he
That's so
and he
good.
wasn't listened to. Like a lot of the time, on Sunday service, it was like a social event, much
Hmm.
before like classical concerts became these like very I don't know, like tense moments where like the audience can't even clap. Like
Right.
people were talking through those services and they were like
Hmm.
having a gossip.
Yeah.
And he was trying to have written that amount of music for that Sunday service, and people might not have even listened to it
By hand, also. Holy smokes.
by
I can't
hand.
even wrap my head around it. Oh, that's wild. Okay, so what advice would you give 15-year-old Mary Spender? She's writing
Oof.
songs. She's dreaming of being a musician.
I would try and tell her not to worry about it taking far longer
Mm,
than she thinks it will. And I think I wasted a lot of time thinking it should have happened at a certain age. And it was never going to
hmm.
because I wasn't that good.
Hmm.
And I needed time, and I didn't have the same level of support that I saw other musicians in London because I was living in Bristol and went to university there from 19 to 21. And I saw friends and acquaintances really just having those contacts
Hmm.
and even having the studio that their parents had helped them get in the garden. And I
Hmm.
saw some things that I was like, when they'd be like, well, we've got this new microphone and it was 400 quid. And I was just there being like, I don't think I'll ever be able to afford that microphone or that level of equipment. Like, where do I even begin? And that was, to be honest, one of the reasons why I started getting into YouTube because I saw people reviewing products.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, if I start reviewing the products that I buy, then maybe I'll get sent free products and I
Hmm.
won't have to spend. So it was like tactical.
Hmm.
But that took me till I was, you know, 29 before I even went full time on YouTube, and back to 21-year-old me looking at these other musicians, and they just had other things that were going for them, and I just had to learn a different route. And I think if I just given myself a little bit of grace and not worried so much about when it was going to happen and just like, you know,
Hmm.
which I mean, you can't change anything.
Hmm.
But I would have saved myself a lot of anxiety. But you just have to make it work however it works for you. And I think the deadline thing I told myself, I was like, well, if it doesn't happen by 30,
Hmm.
I'm gonna, because I was doing the 4-hour cover gigs, and I was working 9 to 5 in like a temp job for like 8 quid an hour, and it was just a bit soul sapping
Hmm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Another reason why I went to YouTube, because I just found performing that much to 3 people in a pub was just taking away any creative energy I had to create a YouTube channel. And again, I see it from so many musicians' side. They're working so hard, they're gigging, they're trying to do 100 things. When do they even have the time to sit and learn how to talk in front of a camera, or learn how to live stream? So, so yeah, I guess I'm glad things have happened the way they've happened, because I also feel like that failure also taught me a lot, and maybe actually that worry did also teach me a lot too. So yeah, maybe I just would have said it's going to take a lot longer than you think it is, but it will be, and it will be different to how you think it will be. But actually, you'll be in the best time of technology, of being an independent musician, and you will be able to make a living.
Yeah.
That's the sort of route I would have gone
That's
down, I
so
think.
good. It's such a good answer. Because I feel like a lot of times if we look back, I just finished writing a song with my band, and like the theme is, if I could do it all again, I'd probably do it the same way, because I like where we ended up. But it was, there's a lot of struggle and a lot of challenge in the middle part. Speaking of that, what's the best thing about what you do right now?
The best thing is the freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's real, genuine freedom. I don't have a manager. I don't have a record label. I instead, and I dreamt of this a long time ago, but I instead have a team that I pay salaries of.
Mm-hmm.
I work with them every day, and it's different. It's like a content creation media company. It's not a record label.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that level of freedom and control is my biggest luxury. I know what I don't need in my life as well. I don't need to have particularly fancy things or a big apartment or anything. And instead, I just get this, yeah, complete independence. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently on this sort of status problem that some people have, where it's like, oh, they think status will lead to, the riches and everything,
Mm-hmm.
whereas actually it's like, focus on building a business
Mm-hmm.
first, and don't buy into the allure of status. Like, I don't need to be a sensationally famous musician to be a musician.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need a level of fame that then makes life very tricky.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's my. I'm really learning to appreciate it. It's stressful because I run
Sure.
a business in
Yeah.
in 2025 that's based on music.
Mm-hmm.
But if I really sit down and look at the benefit of it, it's the freedom, and that luxury is just like, yeah, I'm 34 years old and I get to dictate my day.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually quite a rare thing.
It's a big deal. I joke about when I started my channel in 2009, which is ancient days. And it was about 2011 when I was able to go full time doing this. And I remember going home for Christmas and my mom saying, "When are you going to do something with your music?" And I was just thinking, do you not know? Like, I've built this thing over here, this business. I'm not on the radio in your local radio station. I didn't win the Grammy, but like, look at this. I'm making music and I've got this freedom and built this business and helping these people around music. It's not what I thought it would be. Teenager Joe thought he was just going to go on tour and be a rock star, whatever that is. But yeah, of all my friends, because I live in Nashville, I've got a bunch of friends who tour all the time. And I used to think that's what I wanted. And now I realize that's a lot. It's a lot of
It's
time
a lot.
and
Yeah.
a lot of spare time of just sitting around doing nothing. So I very much enjoy the life I get to have doing this. Like you said, without the accolades but it's a fun, fulfilling, creative life. Even the non-musical parts. I feel like growing a business feels really creative. YouTube, like you
Mhm.
said before, is a super creative outlet. Very different from music, similar, but very fulfilling in its own way. And I'm with you. I'm very grateful because what a time to be alive, right? If we were born just 50 years earlier, this is not an option. So I'm very thankful that we get to do what we do.
Yeah, even 15 years earlier,
Yeah.
I would, yeah, I wouldn't have. I don't know if I'd have lasted. I don't know if I would have had the resilience. I feel like the technological changes, even just in the last decade, even
Hmm.
just since starting the YouTube channel, have just been so great.
Hmm.
That yeah, I feel like a dinosaur now, just not being able to keep up with the changes and everything. And just like, wow, okay, how do I keep learning to improve and get better and, try and match the level of music or content being put out there? It's just like a ever-changing game.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it doesn't ever work out how you think it's going to work out. And actually sometimes that can be the best thing for you.
Hmm.
I think people sometimes have to look at really what the reality is of some of those dreams. And my biggest dream was it's so the audacity of thinking that I really hoped to sell out Wembley Stadium, which is like 80,000 capacity, right? In London. I'd bought the DVD of Muse doing
Yeah.
2 nights there. And God, was that 2005 or something they did that?
Yep.
And I was just like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to have my electric guitar swung round
Hmm.
my back. I want to be playing a crystal clear grand piano. I want to be jumping from mic to mic, just entertaining the audience. I just want to be Matt Bellamy.
Sure.
That's what I need in my life. And now I look at that and I'm like, oh, I definitely wouldn't be able to do that. And the level of fame you have to get to, and the sacrifice your life takes, your family takes, your friends, um, being on the road 365 days of the year, that's a big toll. Some people are so good at it. They're so good. You look at those stadium bands and you're like, wow. How you look at Taylor Swift, no matter what you think of Taylor Swift, there is no way that you can't respect her for doing an almost 4 hours set the way she did the Eras tour and just being up there, up there, up there. Even if whether or not she was interchanging with miming or whatever the rumors are,
Right.
it's like no, she was still there. She was still showing up every night. She must have been sick. She must have been tired if she was going through her breakup, like all those emotional things. Like she's not a robot and she still showed up. And you're just like, yep, couldn't do that. Wouldn't be able to do that. I even had a little nap during the live Eras tour version, and I woke up and I was like, she's still there. She's still performing. I had to have a nap whilst just watching this.
That's so true. Well, I will say I got to see you perform at the NAM show, and it was
Hmm.
such a nice respite from the chaos of NAM. I had seen it on the calendar, and I was like, I got to make sure I get over there to the Martin booth. It was a place that you could sit, which was delightful because your
No.
feet are dying at NAM. But I'd heard some of your full band releases. I hadn't heard any of the guitar vocal stuff, and it was so good. It was such like you do a lot of fingerstyle. You got some
Mhm.
crazy different tuning that was super interesting too. It wasn't crazy. It was different
It was
than
one string.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was one string, but the voicings were so cool and different. And
Thank
it was just delightful to hear, and then to stay and hear you and Corey Wong, who he's also fantastic, and to
Mhm.
hear the panel you did afterward. It was just really refreshing. So I just want to say thank you for performing, and it wasn't quite
Thank you.
Wembley, but it was delightful, and the whole crowd was loving it. It was very good.
It's always nerve-wracking to perform at NAMM. You're just like,
Oh
I
yeah.
just hope that I'm not playing to three people. Like I did. I did in 2015. I would play to three people
Uh huh.
because I was stood on a booth and three people watched me play. But yeah, Martin have always, they've upgraded their stage each time. And that was like the best sound system they could
Hmm.
get, and just actually that space. It was amazing. But truth be told, I was incredibly nervous because I woke up that morning without a voice. and I'd done the typical Nam thing of like talking way too much on the
Yeah.
first day, and then just forgetting that I had to sing for half an hour the next day. And I was like, who am I? Such an idiot, like such a rookie. Um, and then yeah, just trying to make sure and I was on I'm not making excuses, but I kind of am. But it turned out great. I really, really enjoyed myself. And when you're just glad that you have done all those 4-hour cover gigs,
Hmm.
or just like built up the resilience of like this this has to, I hope something comes out right now that just makes sense to the audience, because maybe I'm not 100%, but like you've put in the work enough that you're like, no, I know I can get through this. And
Yeah.
then it was absolutely joyous. I really, really enjoyed it. Love the high of performing like that.
It's such a cool, like, yeah, we want to hear the full band version, but yeah, it's really cool to hear you pull it off, just you and a guitar. There were a couple points where you would play a lot of like rhythmic stuff, and I swore I thought you had a looper pedal at certain points because it felt like there were at least two guitar parts going, in addition to your voice. Anyway, super great, and I'm very picky. I'm very,
I'm honored you
I'm
said that, because that's my intention, but
well. It came
that's not
off very
true.
well. It was super fun,
Thank you.
super fun.
No looper, because even that became a little bit of an added nerve-wracking
Oh yeah.
thing where, I've again done the 4-hour cover sets with the looper pedal. What is it, an RC20 XL from like
Hmm.
2000 or
Yeah.
something, what
Uh
the
huh.
red one, the really old one was, where it's like it's even got like a slight delay that you end up having to learn to
Yeah.
just make sure the loop is in time. And actually I've switched to the Tone Master now for looping, and I'm like, I miss that delay. I remember the nuance of
Once
it.
you learn it, yeah.
Once you learn it, it's hard to unlearn. But yeah, then I would start doing, busking gigs where you couldn't have a looper, you didn't have any amplification, and I was just like, how do I do all of it? I don't know. So I tried to figure it out.
Yeah, I've gone through my looping phases, and then I get to a point where I'm like, oh, loop songs are kind of boring. It's
Yeah, you have to
10
get.
minutes of the same progression.
Yeah, you have to get to the point, otherwise you lose your audience
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah. I got one more. Okay, so to wrap things up, the kind of the ultimate question, why do you, Mary Spender, make music?
I have always had the desire to make music because I have a lot of feelings. I have a lot of emotions. I'm
Same.
incredibly sensitive. I feel I started songwriting particularly because I couldn't communicate the way I really wanted to communicate. And that was from being a little bit shy. I wasn't, completely timid, but I was maybe not my true self until I really started finding who I was at around age 20 or something. Like it was quite late, it's sort of university, where I really started to just be like, you know what, you really have to trust yourself to be able to communicate the way you want to. So I was sort of constantly overthinking as a teenager, and one way of putting it that I realized recently, where I was like, because I write a lot of heartbreak songs, and I love a melancholy lyric to like kind of like an upbeat guitar part. And I just like that sort of depth and autobiographical, revealing nature of my style of songwriting. And it's what I'm drawn to when I listen to other artists as well. And what I realized was that the reason I write so much about painful scenarios is when I haven't met my own expectations of communicating to said person. So it's kind of like this way of sort of cathartically revealing exactly how I felt and
Mm-hmm.
exactly every thought and emotion, but without having that person answer back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I love writing songs the way I do. It's why I probably wait for a feeling a little bit more than maybe I should. Maybe I should plug at it every day, but I sort of wait for that to build up, and then I sit down with my guitar and I just write, sort of like a daily journal
Mm-hmm.
entry. But yeah, I always worry that that feeling is going to go away and then it's just there again. Um, and then I surprise myself with the song. It doesn't, I'm not in terms of quality necessarily, but I surprise myself that I still have all the same tools. I have the same voice, I have the same guitar and same style of guitar playing, and yet I managed to sort of eke out something else. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that's magical.
Mm-hmm.
That's like I read something beautiful recently where it was like, stop thinking of your creativity as finite, like it's a well. Like
Mm-hmm.
just pulling up work, like keep doing the work, keep just don't think that it's going to go away and therefore it possibly won't. Like you'll just keep finding things that motivate you or inspire you, or even having the break of making YouTube videos sometimes is really nice because I'm not just sat there being like, when's the next song coming? I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm busy. And I think keeping busy and keeping educated and learning new things helps the songwriting along. And the famous expression where it's like, if art imitates life, you better start living.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just sit and wait around for something. You just have to go out and explore, and you have to go and get your heart broken every so often. And I know many friends who've said to me, they're like, "Go keep getting your heart broken because like once you're in a happy relationship, that well dries up."
Okay, if you say so. Oh, that's great, and it's beautiful and feels very true. That feels a lot like my story as well with music.
Can I hear your answer? I want
Yeah.
to
So the thing I
exactly.
always say is I write songs so that I can hear myself singing the truth back to myself on days when I don't believe it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very much kind of what you're saying. Like it puts it in a way that connects, gets past the brain into the heart more than just words alone can.
It's so therapeutic. I wish if there's anything I could do to make the world a little bit of a better place, I would just try and teach everyone to write a song. I wish people could really, and I mean that can, start with writing a journal entry. I just wish more people actually did that. And I know it can be scary for people to really be vulnerable, even to themselves. But I think if they were a lot more vulnerable and a lot more open with how they're feeling, or also just that level of cathartism, like where it's like, I've written such angry songs where I've been so mad. And guess what? Once I've written the song, the feeling's gone away. I'm not holding on to it anymore. So some of my songs might sound like I'm rather angry, but like, or I'm an angry person, but I'm actually not because
Right.
I've gotten it out and I've vented. And I just want more people to vent through creativity. And I don't really want people just to write songs with AI that don't necessarily have the soul. Like, I see that as a tool and I see that as like a good starting point. But I do want people to remember that, like, that friction of you putting pen to paper or playing a real instrument and problem solving. I think it's just like full on problem solving. You start out with nothing and you end up with like a 3.5 minute song.
Mm-hmm.
That's really amazing. There needs to be a bit of friction for that, and there needs to be a bit of struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I wish more people could do that, or even feel the need to do that. Some people aren't as emotionally unstable as me, and so they might not need it.
I mean, I will say though, I feel like for years I fought against that sensitivity that I have. Like everything seems to hurt my feelings, and realizing that that same sensitivity that makes me, feel things seemingly too strongly. It's the same sensitivity that makes me love music and connect deeply with a great piece of art. So I can't get rid
Sure.
of that without getting rid of the other. So you have to kind of take them both in stride.
I love it now. I fully embrace it. When people
Yeah.
ask me, they're like, "Well, how did you find the courage to talk about that thing that's so personal?" And I'm there being like, "I love oversharing. It makes me feel so much better. I wish more
Oversharing.
people did this." Like, I overshare with everyone I meet, and I'm like, you know what? If you don't love this, if you don't match my oversharing, then we can't be friends
Uh-huh.
anyway. It's fine. You probably don't want this, and I don't want you. It's okay.
I love that. All right.
I
Well,
had
Mary,
to.
I have taken up enough of your time. Thank you so much for
Oh, thank you for having me.
oversharing with us today. This has been a real treat, and I feel like this has been really helpful for a lot of people. So thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
If you enjoyed this interview, I need you to do a couple of things. First, subscribe to Mary's channel, link in the description. Second, head over to maryspender.com and sign up for her email newsletter. And third, leave a comment with one thing you learned from this that you want to apply to your life. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.